All right, hello. This is Daniel Gies from ED Films. I'm the creative and technical director here, uh, just to do another YouTube stream. I think it's our third one. Basically, I'll continue to do some work in progress and work on some project, and also take any questions that anyone has. And we'll do about an hour, I think, today. And gradually, we'll work it up to get more time on it. For now, we'll start at an hour. So hope you guys are doing good. Happy Friday, by the way. Um, Hello, editor Bree. Welcome to the stream. All right. So, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask. Essentially, what I'm going to be working on is just some background stuff that I have to do for After Effects. I'm just doing it in Photoshop. This is actually based off of a painting that I did using an After Effects character that we've been working on. I'm just going to close some of my stuff here. So there's a couple projects on the go right now. I'm just going to get them out of the way. So this character is an animated robot character that was done in After Effects mixed with a little bit of 3D. And so what we're going to do is just finish building the environment for this specific character so that there's something the character can act against. There's a little tiny story behind it, but nothing crazy. Hey, Pachelovic, welcome, welcome. I don't know how to pronounce everyone's name. VFX will see. Hey guys. Uh, uh, I don't know, is that Good Oliver? I don't know how to say your name. Welcome. Hey, Migmixon. Welcome to this stream. A few of you guys are coming over from the Twitch stream, so I'm glad to have you here. It is a bit of a bonus stream. I'm a little bit hesitant to shut down the Thursday Twitch stream at the moment. So I just thought we'd just add an extra one for Fridays on YouTube for now until we can get a nice solid schedule set up. So essentially what I did, and I put it up on YouTube yesterday. It was our Twitch stream of setting this scene up and kind of getting things going. So everything's being layered out and kind of cut in a way that can start creating the silhouettes that I'll start filling in with actual painting. Hey, Wilman, welcome. Or Wildman, I don't know how to say your name exactly, but welcome to the stream. Again, if you have questions or anything, feel free to ask. Don't worry, don't be shy. Okay, so, oh yeah, and also an update is we have a storefront page, still very much a work in progress in its infancy. If you want to go to it, it's www.edfilms.store. It's not linked on the homepage yet because it's still it's a bit undercover. So you guys are some of the first to actually get much access to it. We've posted it a little bit, but we have some brushes on there right now, some of which I'm going to be using, and we have lots more stuff to come. So we have just these little brushes. Everything's a little bit raw. The images and stuff aren't really exactly where they need to be, but it's all pretty raw. But these are some of the brushes that we've made for a few film projects. And we're just trying to get them out there so that you guys can start using them if you want, and people can start. So right now there's some paid brushes. We'll have some free stuff going up too, and the brushes, it won't stop just the brushes. We have a bunch of textures coming, and actually animated sequences and things like that as well. So we've got. I've been putting all this stuff together for the last little while, so you can start to see what's coming. We were going to be having animated textures. We have a huge library of animated elements, which are just like grasses and things that you guys have seen before. So a whole bunch of animated sequences and stuff. So leaves and flowers and plants and lots of snow and underwater effects. So this is like particle effects and things, paint effects and things that I use in all the different films that we work on. So all that stuff's gradually going to be going up and being made available to you. So that should be cool. Hey, hello, Groove House, welcome. And hey, Claire Swift, welcome to the stream. Thanks for coming to hang out. Anyway, so if you guys are curious or you want to start watching, checking back for things, it's just edfilms.store. I'll just put the link in there. You guys can check it out. But there's more to come, so you can just wait until I'll keep posting stuff as we keep getting more and more things put up there. But it's on its way. That being said, I'm actually going to use a couple of the brushes that we've made in this actual video. and just to start actually getting some forms in this thing. So there's a lot. I have a ton of brushes, but some of the ones, one of the kits that are out right now is the Pinetree brushes, and they're actually really quite large. They look a bit small because I've reduced their size, but they're actually pretty big. And I use these for all kinds of things. Like I can use them for little bushy pieces or for actual trees that go in the background. But you can kind of scrub them together to make actual full trees. Whoa, 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 whoa. And let's just go here. So essentially with these Pinetree brushes, you can create some background foliage and things like that, which I'm going to do because this is meant to be a bit of a mountain. Hey Tom, thanks for the compliments on the stream. I think it was cool. It was nice to have some people ask so many questions and actually be able to integrate that into the stream a little bit better and touch on a broader diversity of subject matter. So that was really cool. Actually, it was pretty fun. So this actual scene here is supposed to be a bit of, so I'm just going to break it down. It's supposed to be a bit of a mountain scene. It's on the side of a mountain, but I don't want to get too heavy with my trees. I have a tendency to over tree everything. So, and I tend to add maybe, you know, too many details at times. So I want to just be careful that I don't overdo it. So one of the things I've done is I've basically layered everything in here. And these will be all my layers that I use to put together the whole background. So this is usually, I always do this. And even if I'm going to, some of these I'm going to convert to 3D layers. But usually what I do is I create the structures and then I start creating opacity passes. So like alpha channels. So all these brushes, a lot of my brushes they don't have alphas on them. Because, I mean, so they don't have a lot of translucency. They do, there's some that are designed to be sort of like, you could see this one, they look like it has snow on it and stuff. So that's designed to be a snowy pine tree. It actually gets pretty big. You can get really big with it. Anyways, it's designed to be a snowy pine tree. But for now, what I'm using is I'm using my solid ones. And those ones are for silhouettes. And the silhouettes are, to me, they tend to be a little more useful than the ones with a whole bunch of shading on them because it helps me, I can build patterns and stuff like that I can then paint inside of really quickly. So that's just what we're going to be doing here. And one thing I think I want to do really quickly before I lock everything here is I want to make sure, I want to just grab the little guy. I'm going to grab a copy of this guy and paste him in the actual scene. I'm going to flatten this out. And I just want to grab a little bit of this section so I can get a sense of, just so I have a constant reference to the scale of this character. So I'm just pressing Control J to duplicate the character. And I'm going to pop it in way in the top somewhere. There we go. And turn this back on. So this just helps me see what the general scale of the scene is so that my trees don't get too small. Like these pine trees look really small and they're actually meant to be quite small. On the sides of mountains, obviously, you have big trees, but you have little trees as well. So it can be a bit of a mix of both. But smaller trees, smaller pine trees tend to have like bigger leafy parts. So that, you know, these kind of look like almost mountainy trees. But as long as I make the little details on them kind of big, it'll be okay. Plus, I'll add like little bits here and there to scale things up a bit. Glowfly Blender, yes. The brushes are, those brushes at the store page, they are my brushes. And we'll keep adding more and more. And if you guys have feedback on them, please don't be shy. Just let me know if you're missing something or you feel like there's a brush that isn't there or one of the brushes aren't working really well or you're finding it's any of that kind of stuff, you can just let me know and we'll fix it. We're still small and the demand is really relatively low, so we can be pretty responsive. As far as lighting, do I visualize? Okay, so Tom's asking if I add any lights in Photoshop at these beginning steps. You visualize what you want. Then, so you do have to think of light. So like when you look at this character here with the rock on it, Um, this is all I do have to think of the lighting. So in some scenes you don't have to, but you can do the lighting in two different ways. If you watch, there's a really good tutorial on Aaron Blaze. He does lighting on and what he does is color first, and then he does these overlay passes to do lighting on them. And it works really well. So it is one way you can work, is that you don't paint your lighting in right away. It really depends on how you like to work, but usually I do both, right? So I'll do lighting, a little bit of lighting in After Effects, but I will paint some general lighting on the objects, especially if I want very specific lighting patterns, because I can't light a rock three-dimensionally in After Effects very well. It has to be painted. But what I do usually do is I try to make a flatter version first, and then I start painting stuff into it. I start painting stuff on it. So I think I'm just realizing too is with if people start getting the brushes, I just realized with our Pinetree brushes, because I do have the wintry ones and I have the alpha channel ones, that I might split that into two groups, or just we'll update we might do updates now and again that will increase the number of brushes that you have that are based on the same brush, but one's more of a matte brush and the other's something used for a soft painting with. So like I was just saying, I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate today. But so some of the brushes, I was trying not to make it so that if you looked at them, you'd see like, oh, that they're exactly the same. But some of these ones here that have the snow and the lighting on them, if those aren't in the kit, I'll make sure those get in there, because some people may actually really want those. And with the brushes in the kit too, they're just brush tips, and they have a current setting on them, but you can really start playing with them. Like, it's kind of important to play with them depending on how you paint. So don't get stuck in just one way of using them. And we'll be doing tutorials on all the brushes as well, so you can have a way and a method to actually work with them. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I just want to add some rocky bits. So I'm just taking these and a couple of other brushes, really hard brushes, but with a bit of an edge on them. So you see it's got like a little bit of an edge to it, which makes it so it's just not going to be too clean looking. And I can come in and just start adding some details, just some rockiness. Now this, I mean, you don't have to do it this way either. There's so many different ways you could do this, but so I'm not really sure. You could paint first and then cut it out. Really just depends on how you like to work. And then sometimes I just swap between black and white, and I'm painting right on the alpha thumbnail. So if you see here, I'm painting right here. Sometimes I'll just go in here and actually just do a big shape. If it's supposed to be like a little, oops, switch that. I just delete it off. It's pretty manual. I'm not sure. I'm still feeling things out right now. Ultimately, I'm just trying to make some interesting pieces, and then those will get incorporated into the actual painting. Hey, Paspa Lati, where can you find that brush? Which brush? The one I'm using right now? Like this one? This one I just made it. You can use like that brush I don't have on the store yet. So we have more brushes coming, but our first sets that we've put up are just the tree brushes and stuff, and they're just on the store. So the ones that are there right now are some tree brushes and some grass brushes. So I'll just go here really quick, and I think it's right here. So we've put up pine trees, so it's like these kind of ones, and then we've also put up some grass and stuff, and these are my own like grass brushes. I use a mix of a whole bunch of different brushes, but these ones are the ones that we have, are the ones that I've made custom. I think I have another one. I have a really good one here that I'm not seeing at the moment. It's right here. This one I use for silhouettes, and that one we have up. This is a really good brush because it's two-sided. So it follows the direction of your brush, but what it's really good for is adding like grassy details all over the place, and you just rub it back and forth and kind of keep it the direction. Grass tends to just always go straight up. So I try to keep it, so this the way this brush works is it sort of just follows your brush direction. like that, but it flips. It flips back and forth so that there's two sides of grass so that you can have more variety in how the grass actually looks. But if you go up and down, you kind of have to make sure you're going left to right. I mean, you can change that if you go into your brush settings. You can actually turn the brush this way instead. So if you want to go up and down, you can do that too. Just slightly different result. It turns into a bit of a furry tail. But I'll keep it side to side for now. Oops, wrong way. There we go. Hey, Daniel. Hola. Welcome to the stream. So I'm going to throw some grass in here. So ultimately, this one, like I said, these pine trees are meant to be small. I'm just trying to get some structure in here, and I will try to look at both. There will be a fair amount of parallax affecting the full scene, but so I'm going to try to look at my big pieces right now, and I just want to build those up. The reason I tend to overdraw them is because I might want to move them around a little bit. Like I may want this mountain piece to be more like that and less down. Like so, I typically try to play a little bit and make sure that I have a little bit extra to work with. Hey there, Sulman. I don't know how to say your name right, so please just don't take too much offense if you can help it. I'm just going to add bits of grass. If I add some grass in this little area, it will help sell the idea that the trees are a bit small. These aren't giant trees. I also have another brush that I use a lot, which we don't have this one up on the store yet. We've just been waiting to see if anyone actually buys them. If people start buying them and there's an interest, we'll continue to release more and more. I know it's a bit nerve-wracking to buy things online. Like I understand it. I'm trying to make sure we're as considerate as possible as to what the process is, and to be tailored towards how artists work. Definitely, I really want to only put up stuff that I would actually want to buy myself. Okay, so I'm just looking for, there's a brush I use with twigs and sticks, and it's in one of the kits too, so it's these ones. Just painted some of these, and sometimes I throw these in here and there. They just help give us a little bit of, it's good for roots too. So if you have like a little crevice or something where there's like roots hanging out, you can kind of throw them in there, and it helps break those shapes up and make it look kind of cool. Yeah, those are also included in the store. Let me just double check what we have up on the store at the moment, because we have a whole bunch in the wings right now. Let me just see where so these are the ones, not all of these are out yet. Not all of these are on the store yet, but these are what's coming. So we have these ones, which have already been released to some of our Patreon subscribers, and those are what was used for these projects here. So these ones are, let me just double check. It's just for this kind of stuff. So we have those. Those are only 5 brushes, but it gives you these leafy silhouettes like alphas. So that's one. The grassy twigs one, that's the one that's up right now. And that's kind of, I'm using some of those ones. There's a whole bunch of brushes in there. There's how many? I think there's like 10 or more. So there's those ones. That's one of the ones I was just using. And these ones, they're pretty big. All of them are pretty large. That's the one I'm using right now, sorry. All of them are pretty large. So we have that. So that one's definitely up. Grassy Twigs is up, and Pine Trees is up for sure. So that's the one we were just looking at. And Pine Trees has one. So there's a number of different ones. So you guys do have the ones with the snow on them as well, which is good. So each one of these has about between 10 to 15 brushes. The next one we have is these Poplar Trees. That one's coming up. Now the thumbnails the strokes are really small, but they're actually quite big. And I'll show you the Poplar Trees in a second. But if you guys want them, like I can make sure that we push a little bit faster to get them up. And then we have our rocky ones. And these, again, these are what people in Patreon received already a while ago. And so these are some of the rock ones that we have. Yeah, anyways, so those are what's right now kind of in the wings. So we have pine trees up and we have grassy and twigs, I believe. Those are the two that are up right now. So we have more ready to go up. Hey ZZ, welcome. Yeah, So yeah, Glowfly, sorry to answer your question, they will be going up. Not all of the ones that are there right now are what were used in the 2.5D scene, although the Pinetree brushes were used in that scene. So I'm splitting some of them up into different types of trees, and then also we'll be splitting them into different types of rocks and foliage and stuff, because I also have mossy brushes that I use for kind of like mossy objects, and that would be like I have these things. This is more used for like really close up, or sorry, like really dense stuff, like dense bushes, like this kind of thing. But there's one I use for a lot for moss, and we're gonna have a lot of moss in this one. We also have an industrial set of brushes too, like that you can use to make chain link fences and stuff, and girders, which are great. Okay. I'm just trying to find this one. I need this one brush. My stuff is a little disorganized because I normally what I've been using is I've been using Brush Gordon, which has been really nice to use. So this brush I use a lot for mossy type things. It's actually based off of a plant, a type of plant that grows in the Ottawa Valley. It's a really good one. So that'll be up on the store, but it's not up yet. Just I'm going to keep reminding you, there's only 2 brush packs up right now. And like I said, we've been holding off just because we weren't sure what the actual level of interest would be. So this one has two modes. You have this one, which is the actual mode with shading, and then you have one for the alpha channel, the actual alpha mask, which is what I'm using it for right now. Is just it's fully solid, and that's for like these silhouette edges and stuff like that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Sorry, Tom's asking if we'll be doing stuff for vectors or patterns. Absolutely. And there's actually a really easy way to convert brushes to vectors. And I'm actually working on a whole tree kit of vectors and shapes. They're also brushes, but they are also trees. Because the thing is like I draw these trees pretty fast, and then you can vectorize them really easy and turn them into shapes. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, I'm more than happy to do that and focus on it. It's really ultimately what I'm waiting for is just as I hear back from you guys and I know what you're interested in, it's really at that point it's a lot easier for me to prioritize what we make. So just like definitely hit me up and let me know what kind of stuff you're looking for, and I'd be happy to answer that. Because we have so much stuff. We have so much stuff that we're just trying to get out there, like textures and all kinds of like animated assets and brushes and 3D objects. So I just like have a lot of stuff that just helps, right? It just like it helps you get going. It's a little thorny tree. Now most of these brushes I'm using are my own that I've made, but some brushes are from other people. Like this one, this is a really nice brush. This isn't mine. This is done from Aaron Blaze, and you can go to his, I think if you go to his YouTube site, Aaron Blaze, you can find them there. I can't remember what his actual store page is, but these are really lovely brushes, and you get about, I've used them on quite a few projects. You get about, I don't know, if you buy, there's a few kits. There's a tree kit, there's a grass kit, and these are actually really, really quite nice too, to throw in the mix. Tom, like that's awesome. I'm glad you're going to grab the brushes, and please like let me know if you have any problems or questions. We have yet to put any tutorials up for those brushes, but that will be coming. Okay, so I've thrown in some like little grassy things. I'm using, like I said, I'm using a little bit of these Aaron Blaze brushes. Usually with his brushes, I have to turn off the he tends to put like lots of color effects and stuff on it. So for when I'm doing like alpha channels like this, I just have to turn those color effects off. So I just made sure I turned off, even on transfer, I want to make sure there's no opacity jitter or anything like that. I want it to be really solid. Opacity jitter is really fine in a painting context, but when you're trying to make layers for After Effects compositions, It tends to be a little bit better to keep everything really solid, at least for me, because I find that if you have a mountain and or like let's say we'll just use this as an example. If this is one of the other brushes that we've made. This is a really good one. I use this one a lot. You can create all kinds of like cool little plants out of that one. Anyways, I find if there's semi-transparency on things, it looks fine as a painting, but as soon as the actual scene is moving and you can sort of see through it, it can be really, really super distracting. So I tend to make sure that my stuff's really solid, and then I allow my washes and stuff like that to be more of the see-through things, like fog and stuff. But that's my own style, right? So it really depends on how you like to work. Okay, so that's one end. That's one little edge. And so I'm just imagining these little tiny pine trees and little grassy things. And then we can start building up the rest later. But for now, I start with the silhouettes. So we'll do one of the other big ones. And with each silhouette, we're getting a little bit closer. So I have to keep that in mind. So let's say if I was going to use this Aaron Blaze brush again on this specific layer, which is a touch darker, first I have to make sure I turn off transfer and color dynamics. And I want to make sure I'm making it a bit bigger. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a little bit hard to see because we're not on white. I could probably turn the contrast up a little bit. This is a nice thing about working with color layers is you just bop that up a bit. And now I have a little more contrast and I can see what's going on. So I want to make sure that this brush is noticeably bigger on this layer. Also want to watch for too much pixelization because right now, I don't know how big he makes his brushes, but sometimes when you're working with really high resolutions, the brushes can be a little bit low res. I tend to try to make my brushes pretty huge because I really have the scenes, I really push them quite far. But that can be hard on people's computers. That's the other thing for you guys. If you guys grab the brushes at all, make sure you let me know if they're feeling too big. You know, if you're having problems with your processor and it feels like stuff is just taking way too long and the brushes are laggy, let me know and we'll patch them up. We'll make some smaller brushes. Like I can scale them down and scale down the original images on them if you have to. It should help if you just scale them down yourself and make your comp smaller, but I'm not 100% sure. I have a pretty decent computer that I work with, so sometimes I can get a little bit spoiled and forget what it's like to be a normal person or like have a normal computer. Oops, this one's kind of going the wrong way. Which way do I want this one? There. Add a couple of these. This is in the grassy brush kit. This one's okay. The only problem with the way I have it set up is it looks a little bit patterny. So with this, and this was designed for a certain style, it works really good once it's embedded in a few things. But if you really want to adjust it, what I would do is I don't usually do angle jitter too much because that can make it really chaotic, which might be what you want. But we can do a roundness jitter a little bit more, and so that's pushing it down a bit. And then drop the minimum roundness a lot. And so we'll get a little more variety. And pop the size jitter up for sure. And then we have Flip X going on. And if you want, you can throw in brush projection, which really starts messing with it. So we'll just scale this down a little bit. And brush projection, if you have that capacity, you can change some of the shapes a little bit. This one's a little touchy because it can look really patterny fast. However, used properly, with a little bit of practice, you can get some nice variety thrown in there. So let's just throw a little bit in there. Just helps break up some of the more predictable shapes. Oops, that's upside down. I might change the actual direction of this brush. I find going side to side may not be the most intuitive thing. I might go like that. It looks a little better going straight up, doesn't it? So in the brush kit, it's more side to side, but I would suggest maybe even turning the brush like this, and then you can do some cool stuff with it. I will release, one of the other things we're going to do is some tools. So tools in Photoshop are a little bit different than brushes. It uses the same brush tips, but you can make it so you have presets, and those can be a little bit more useful. So like for instance, this and this could be a tool. And the tool can remember color and general opacity and flow and all that kind of stuff. So just put a few more of these. This approach is for pretty high detail. So if that's not really your thing, obviously this isn't really the way to go. And I don't know if it's really quite the way to go for this specific painting. I never really know until I've started how detailed things need to be. Sometimes I can make things overkill for sure. Well, I do. And then they get a little bit too rigid. Or sorry, yeah, like a bit clinical looking, like really stiff. Actually, this brush works really well when it's set vertically. I usually struggle with this brush a bit. But it works really nice vertically. And so I'll also show you a really quick way to just create, if you need to have rocky edges and you want to create rocky edges, we'll just make a really quick brush here. I'll make a new composition. And I'll make it about 400 by 400. And it's pretty large for a brush, but maybe not by today's standards. I need something 4 alpha channels. So I just want something that's going to be a little bit rocky and have like a few different qualities to it. I need it to be solid because it's for an alpha channel. I don't want it to have a whole bunch of opacities and, you know, gradients in it. I want it to be pretty solid. Okay. So I'll make a new layer. I think I could just do this. Hopefully it's big. It should be big enough. I may have to. So usually I do this and I'll like actually use some of the. I might actually put a crack in there or something. So I'm just deleting off the actual alpha channel itself. Not sure if this is a good idea or not. I guess we'll see. X, there we go. So let's put a couple more little tiny little cracky holes in it. We'll see how this one works. Usually with a brush you need to experiment a little bit. They're never going to be perfect your first try. Whoa, come on now. What's going on? Control Shift D, delete. There we go. I'm not sure if these little crack hole things are a very good idea. Do you have any advice for compatibility issues when working with others who use different programs? I'm working with someone who loves Clip Studio to compromise in order to share files as a PSD. That is a good question. I've never worked with Clip Studio. Interesting. I'll let you finish the rest of your question. I've not used Clip Studio. I know that it can be, well, if you're predominantly using Illustrator and you need to do vectors, does Clip Studio recognize the vectors that Illustrator puts out, or are you primarily talking with your Photoshop going back and forth between Photoshop and Illustrator? Do they work in Affinity? That's awesome. How does Affinity, Claire Swift? How does Affinity pull the brushes in? And Tom, I can only guess because I haven't used that specific program before. Okay, I'm just going to do this really quick. So I'm going to copy pretty much. I'm just going to do a selection, and then I'm going to go edit, and I should be able to define the brush. So it'll just make this weird thing. I'll go to brush. So I'm going to have this like lumpy thing that looks terrible at first. But as far as actually compatibility, one thing I know you can do is you can create shape layers in Photoshop. So if you have to work in Photoshop, you can create a lot of your shape layers in Photoshop. I'm just not sure if you can export them as EPS files. I'm pretty sure you can. I'm going to space this one a little further apart. I haven't done a lot of jumping between the two programs. I know it can be a real pain in the butt, though, for sure. I sympathize with you on that. If anyone in the stream has any advice, That would be really helpful because I don't quite know for sure. Okay, so I'm going to do an angle jitter here. So this I'm going to try to use for my rocky edges. I may have too much detail on this brush actually. I got to be careful not making it too big. If I get big, you're going to see how there's pixelization right there. You really want to watch for that. So usually you want to keep the brush at its native resolution or smaller. So for this brush, it might be a really good small brush. I think there's possibly just too much detail on that brush. I think it's a little too busy. So let's clear off some of that detail. It's not helping. It's making it a bit too foliage looking. Suraj is asking, how do you practice 2D animation? Well, that's a good question. It depends on what kind of 2D animation you're into, and if you mean, like, do you mean hand-drawn 2D animation or do you mean puppet animation? There's lots of different techniques and styles. There's a couple of, depending on, if you're not quite into it yet and you're just learning, there's a few free resources that you can use online to practice with. There used to be, I don't know if you guys. Oh, in what way are you asking me personally in what way I practice, or are you asking for advice of how to practice? I think I'm going to straighten this edge out a lot more. I think I still probably have too many knobbly bits. Always do that. I always have too much stuff going on. It's like my hubris. Okay, so digital and yeah, both. Okay. As far as how I practice, I tend to use TV Paint or something, but a lot of my practice comes from working. So I'll do projects where I commit to things and then I have to practice. I just have to do it. I don't usually run around with a Flipbook or anything like that. There is a couple programs. Just bear with me 1 second. I'll just check it out. There is like a couple of online Flipbook things. One, let me just see. Online Flipbook. I'm trying to see. There used to be. Here. Here's one. I've never used this one. But these ones you can use to draw on and practice animation. But I'm not sure how good this one is. There's a bunch of other ones where you can do stuff. So let's just see if I draw something here. So now we have a new frame. Whoa, weird. Is that what I wanted? I don't know. I'm not sure if this is going to work. But things like programs like this are great little great places to practice. Oh, good. It has undo. That's nice. So what happens if we press play? How does it work? How do I play it? Yeah, little programs like this can be super fun. Let's see what someone's made. Cool. Anyways, I don't know if you guys ever play with this stuff, but these kind of websites are awesome. I would definitely recommend them as a way to learn and play. Okay, sorry, there's a couple of questions. Did you ever work for 2D games? I have done 2D game animation stuff, not a lot, but what I did use at the time was Photoshop. So, and I wouldn't recommend that. It's not necessarily the best option. Let me just define this brush really quick, and I'll go into more details. There's a couple that are looking quite promising. Define brush preset. If you want to define the brush, you have to make sure you're not selected on the alpha channel. There's a couple for 2D animation for game stuff that looks pretty good. One's called Spine. I think Spine. I'm just gonna look animation. Spine animation. It's sort of like a puppet-based animation system. It's right here. I would strongly recommend checking it out. I think the trial version is pretty robust, and it's really fun. And also you can export these as FBX files straight into Unity. So that's a really great program. There's another one called Creature or something like that. I'm trying to remember. I mean, this is more puppet animation, but it's really great. And there's another one called what is it called? There's one called like Spriter or something like that. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, so this program's pretty good too. And I haven't really used it, but I've had a lot of people gush about it and say they really like it. So Spriter is another good one. And I think it's pretty affordable. So yeah, let me know if I hope that answers your question. Sorry guys, I'm behind in the stream here in the questions. Today we're And what way do you practice it? Like what you draw. Okay, so you're asking like what do I yeah, it's like as far as drawing, I practice in a sketchbook all the time. Another program that I use, which is pretty affordable for drawing and practicing, is the Autodesk. I think there's a free version of it, but I use this program sometimes because it's really fast. It's a lot faster than Photoshop brushes sometimes, and there's a lot of free stuff. Like you can download a lot of free brushes. Plus, it has a really cool. Size this up. It has a really cool symmetry option, and it has some really neat tools for building stuff. So like, doing your guides and things like that. So you can really, and this keeps your perspective. So there's some really great perspective tools, some symmetry tools. They also have in this program, oh wait, you can go File and you can go New Flipbook. So I can just do a Flipbook here. I won't save. I'll just do 1280. I think it goes as high as HD. But this one's pretty good too for animation stuff. So usually too, when I'm doing animation, just because I'm not very good at it, I don't do a lot. Oh wait, you have to go plus, and then I have to turn on onion skinning. I can't remember where that is. Oh yeah, right. This one and this one. You can pick how far back and how far ahead. But usually when I do, I'm not super good at animation, so I typically will draw one part of the character. I will animate one part at a time instead of doing the whole thing all at once. Okay, and we'll go one frame ahead. Oh, Krita. I haven't used, I haven't used Krita. Happy Inktober, thank you. How about After Effects is great. After Effects, so, sorry guys. Pramod, After Effects is great for doing animation for sure, but it's a little bit heavy to get into. I would recommend also, maybe if you're new at it, Character Animator is like a really nice program for, especially if you're kind of new. I really should stop doing this. I always do this. I end up getting all caught up in a process, and I have a really hard time demoing things and not getting carried away. I'm doing a thing where he jumps down and kicks and stomps his foot. Anyways, we'll just stop that. TV Paint, is it better? Yes, TV Paint is a very powerful animation program. I would highly recommend it if you can afford it. It's the problem with TV Paint is it's not free and it's not cheap. So I mean, it's not a problem, but if you don't know yet whether you really love doing animation or not, I would not recommend, hitting up something like TV Paint. I think it's about $1,000. Okay, this is a bit better. I might even just grab the brush here and change the brush tip shapes and just squash it down a bit. Oops. Might make it a bit flatter. And I could make it so it's pretty flat right now. I mean, see, you can get some like cool rock shapes already, but I might even make it so that it goes with the direction of the pen. There we go. And what I want to try to do, let's just turn down the angle jitter for now. Put it to 0. Okay, so this is sort of flowing with the pen, so we can get 2 different types of surfaces there. And if we space them apart a little bit more, there. It's a pretty good rock edge pen brush. Sorry. Oh, hey. I don't know how to say your name. Nikhil Kumar. Welcome. Do you recommend learning life and figure drawing along with anatomy lessons if you want to do traditional animation? I absolutely do. It helps immensely. It's hard. Some people are really good at it. I was never specifically super good at it, but I would highly recommend it. There's a few online courses that can be really helpful with that stuff for sure. So if you're looking for resources, I've been struggling to learn figure and anatomy for years and years and years. Pramod, I don't know if I'm saying your name properly, or Pramod, or feel free to send stuff. Send it to our either to the email that I have associated with this account, or our info@edfilms, because Emily checks that, and then we'll like make sure we get back to you on that. It can take me a bit of time because if I get really, really, really busy, it's sometimes hard for me to keep on top of my emails. It's the first thing that I goes for me. But yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. Storyboarder is free. I haven't used Storyboarder at all. So I haven't heard of it, but I'm definitely. That's not. I don't even know. That's not associated with Toon Boom, is it? Is it something different? So also just back to the anatomy question. I know anatomy is not specifically fun, but it is incredibly valuable because the more you know it, the less time you're going to waste trying to struggle and draw things. So, what is George Brigman? Because that sounds really great. I'm always looking for resources. The other thing I've been using is this program here, which it'll probably pop up in just a sec. So I'm going to keep painting really quick. I should probably save this brush. There's still a couple things I don't love about it at the moment. I might make it so it can scale a little bit. Let's just see what happens if we can scale it. I might have to flip X. What does flip X look like? Oh, that works okay. It's mostly in an attempt to get some nice rocky edges. I'm just going to save this brush really quick. Ground alpha. Okay, sorry, you guys are asking, can you use George Brigman? It's fine, design will be finishing December. Yeah, please contact me, that for sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, it'll be online. We'll leave it online so you can watch it later for sure. Yeah, yeah, those are that book, Figure Drawing for Design and Inventions. I actually have that just right behind me. So I use that book as well. It's definitely I was doing a drawing demo the other day or yesterday. It really depends on your brain, but I struggle really badly with the clinical aspect. I used to want to be a surgeon, so you'd think I would be more inclined towards figure drawing, or sorry, anatomy. I love figure drawing, but what one thing also which can happen is you can get a little bit too caught up in the details of the process of figure drawing. So one thing I definitely encourage is there's one guy that taught me some really nice figure drawing stuff, which was like drawing through structure. And that's what you're going to learn in that book is like breaking down something into structures that you can that are easily understood. So stuff like cylinders and cones. And I had never tried to draw that way before. And I found it was actually really quite helpful. I was getting better results pretty quick right out of the gate. So that was useful. But the other thing, like I was demoing the other day, is to draw and just try not to get too hung up in making it really good. Because that's another thing too, is like you do learn through repetition. And if you're making your process or your capacity to repeat a task that you've done really, really hard and unwieldy, then the chances of you going back to it and actually doing it get lower and lower, right? So if it's not fun in any way, you're I mean, again, it depends on how you learn. Some people are really good at really tedious tasks, and I really have a lot of respect for them and admire it. I'm jealous of that skill. But if you're not good at that kind of thing, then it's really important that you carve out some time to make a drawing process that you enjoy more, and that can be without so much of expectations of like good anatomy. I don't know if that helps. But usually what I would do for that is, I mean, I guess I could do a quick little demo for you. Or not a demo. I mean, I'm not a pro in that kind of, in that realm. But let's say, oh yeah, I also have these guys, which are not, they're not super cheap, but I have these guys, which are like these guys that I use for reference all the time. And I draw them quite a bit. And there you can get some online ones. There's some cheaper ones from 3dtotal.com. Have some pretty affordable maquettes that you can actually draw from and do anatomy from. But let me just make sure that I saved this, and then I'll just grab a pen. So sometimes when I'm actually doing anatomy stuff, I do the same thing that I do with portraits and stuff, is I don't really look at my paper, and I try just to try to look at the main structures and not get too caught up in doing anything right. Really just trying to feel it out. This isn't the best way to get a clinical understanding of something, but what it does do is it makes it for me a little bit more enjoyable, and I get a little less caught up in all the framework and all that kind of stuff, which is really good to know too. And the whole thing is when they're talking about innovation, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it, but there's stuff that you may not notice. It takes you a while to understand, but like with the collarbone, for instance, and seeing that the muscles sort of drape off of it, it's almost like a shower curtain hanger, and certain things drape off of it. And just learning, you're only going to start discovering this stuff if you look at it a lot and a lot and a lot. So there's certain steps that all these books are going to teach you, but you also want to make sure that you're still having some level of fun with it. So that's that. Sorry if I'm going on and on and on. Okay, I just want to get a couple of more rocky bits. Let me just double check this one. I think those rocky bits look pretty good. I'll come back in and clean them up, or like make them a little bit. I might put a little gash in here. Make the brush a bit bigger. Oh, how do I practice character design? That is a good question. There's so many websites that will give you different approaches and different ways to practice. For me, I did a stream yesterday, which is really how I do a lot of character design stuff. It's very much the same thing. Is I will find a portrait, or I'll find something that I kind of resonates with me, and I will again draw with barely looking at the page. I just get better stuff that way, because it's also because the way my brain works is I tend to be a bit controlling and a bit detailed focused, if you haven't noticed. and that can really get in the way of my ability to make stuff and be quick about it. So let me just double. I just want to use this guy's. This is another one of Aaron Blaze's brushes. So when I'm doing character stuff, like I'm definitely not an expert at character stuff either. It's not. I don't get to do it nearly as much as I wish I could. I have a tendency that I only get to do it at certain little spots here and there. But I try to just move fast and not get too caught up in the details. Oh, and one of the things. One of the things I use, which I was going to tell you guys about, is this program, which is Design Doll. And I think there's a lot of it is, I think there's a free version. And it's a great program for if you're trying to do characters and get poses and stuff like that. It's a really good program. I've been really using it a lot. It's great for just helping you get your sense of proportion and how things should be. You can customize the character too. And it's actually just really decent for posing characters and just getting your designs down a little bit. Like you can adjust them and do all other kinds of things. But anyways, this has been a really nice program, and they've got some really good details. I won't get too much into it, but I've really been enjoying it. And Tom, you're saying any news in the Unity integration with controllers? Whenever I see your stream, you're on a different project. Okay, so there's the Unity stuff with controllers. We're releasing the I don't know if it's like a beta or an alpha. It's like the rawest, roughest version. We're releasing the plugin in literally this month. It'll be out, and that's mostly just the exporter. And then what I've been working on is a pipeline for it. So I don't have any specific tools for hands and stuff like that in Unity as of yet. Stuff we're working on, but it's still a ways off. We're really trying to see what Unity's going to be doing so that we don't reinvent the wheel. But yeah, that's coming out this month, so you guys will have access to that plugin. Some people will have access to it, not everybody. It's not going to be on the asset store yet or anything like that. And then as far as the hand thing, that hand thing was done, if that's what you're asking about, Tom, that hand was done in After Effects. And that is a tutorial video that's currently in the works. And also that character rig, as soon as we're finished it, it's going to go up on the store as well. And you guys will be able to download it and play with it and kind of tweak it and learn from it. So that's going to go up. The only thing that's holding me off on that at the moment is just putting a good breakdown video of how to actually work through that puppet. So I'm finishing an animatic for Harry Hill right now, and so that's what this whole week is dedicated to. And then the next couple weeks is all dedicated to getting those assets up on the asset store and getting the Unity exporter put up for everyone. So I hope that, I don't know if that helps. Just gonna put in some little things here. I really have to be careful of not overplanting this thing. I tend to overplant my garden for sure. I want to keep some rocky bits. Yeah, it's cool. Design Doll is cool. I have a lot of fun with it, and the paid version you have more versatility to save poses and do all kinds of stuff like that. You can still pose all your fingers and feet and all that stuff. It's actually really great. And I've been using it a lot working on my animatic because some of the poses are just hard to nail. And so I'm just using it as reference all the time. Someone else on YouTube tested Design Doll out. I can't remember what channel I saw it on. I really have to remember these channels a bit better because I'm doing you guys a disservice by not remembering them. Cool. Okay, I'm almost done this piece here. Just adding some little bits here and there. I usually do this method a lot. I mean, anyone who's been following my workflow has seen this method a lot. The only thing that's different now for me is I do a bit more of a detailed painting initially. Like you could do a painting like this and then try to cut it out. It's just really time consuming. So, and yeah, you're welcome for the tips, guys. It's like, that's what I'm here for. So just bring on the questions. Feel free to ask. I'm going to stop the stream fairly soon here, with probably in the next 15 minutes. So if you guys have any like other last minute questions or anything, just let me know. Like I said, I'll gradually, my goal is to get the YouTube stream up a little bit longer, and then we're transitioning out of some of the Twitch streaming stuff. So if I do them all, it's just a lot. It takes a lot. It's a lot of work. Okay, I think what we need here, so this is kind of the same process that I did for the little Bambi scene. There's this little Bambi scene that I did. This is the same thing. I might put a little root in here. I actually really enjoy this. I find this process very meditative. Though my brushes are a bit disorganized at the moment. What? Oh, right, I added a couple new brushes. I should get rid of a couple of these ones. Shouldn't keep these around. Okay, my brushes are coming in. I just want to grab so I created sections in Brush Gordon. I don't know if you guys have ever used it. If you have tons of brushes, it's really helpful. But with Brush Gordon, it just helps me keep things a little bit more organized. So I'm not flying all over my brushes. I mean, I don't find Photoshop has the best brush management system. Does this brush have, I need to turn off transfer. Transfer is not really good for when you need alpha channels, like I said before. This I'll probably use in a little bit later. This is one of the brushes from my foliage and leaf kits, which we don't have up quite yet. This is a really good one. This is great for making all kinds of like trees and bushes. Is it possible to stream on YouTube and Twitch simultaneously? I've seen guitarist named Eric Mongrain do that. Need to get on Twitch so I can listen to you. That's a good. You know what? That's what I was trying to figure out. If I'm gonna check out, since you said someone was able to do it, I was trying to see if I could do that too. It would be possible if I ran 2 separate streaming programs simultaneously. I might be able to do it. I was concerned about the quality of the stream. I didn't want it to go down too much, but because if you're running simultaneous streams, if you don't have a really good internet connection, things can get pretty gross and slow. But if someone else has done it and it actually worked, I'll try it out. Because I think it would save too. It would save a lot of time, and plus it would increase our audience a bit because we're pretty slow growing on Twitch. And I think mostly, well, I don't know, I can't speak for sure, but I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact that getting a Twitch account is not always designed. Like, it took me forever to get a Twitch account because I had no real reason to get it, and it's like a whole other sign up and this other thing you got to do. So I really don't. I kind of understand when it comes to getting yet another account somewhere, it's a bit of a turnoff. I would prefer to stream on both if possible. Not every time. The only thing that's been really good for us for Twitch is that it's a little bit. Twitch can be a little bit easier to get really into a long flow with, but I imagine here on YouTube it would eventually get to that point too. Okay. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I'm doing right now. I'm going to go through the whole thing and build up all these different layers, these different channels of objects and kind of get them all laid in. And then I'm going to look for holes, like, so you can already see that I've missed a couple little spots in this one. And I'll either keep the hole, because the hole can be great, right? Or I'll make a different type of hole and make it so it's a little more intentional and looks less like an accident. Then once that's done, then I start my actual painting again, my painting process again. Pramod, I will tell you, I'm sorry for anyone who's already heard it before. I was a graphics designer before, but I started out as just in high school. I drew a lot, probably like most people, or a lot of people interested in this animation stuff. I drew a lot in high school. I didn't end up going to school. I wanted to, but all this animation schools were really out of my price range. So I was pretty self-taught because I had access to computers at a pretty young age, in a time where a lot of people didn't have computers. So all through the late 80s and early 90s, I was on computers doing animation. So that was really helpful for me because then when I got out of high school, I was able to get a job at an advertising company right away because I had already so much Photoshop experience. And most people didn't. Most people, very few people had Photoshop experience at that time, at least especially in my age where you could be hired as a junior essentially. So I worked at that for a long time, and then I always wanted to do character animation, but I was stuck doing web design and print for a long, long time. But what I kept doing is I kept finding opportunities to do character animation, and I kept finding different projects that I could get involved in. So it was essentially that's essentially what I did for a long time. And then as far as like being online and stuff like that, I was doing tutorials mostly because I was struggling so hard to learn stuff, and I would spend all this time learning it. But then I would realize that the material wasn't easy to find anywhere. So then I felt like we should probably be posting it online. So that's why I'm here right now. I mean, it's really important for people to have access to information. It's a lot more prevalent now. It's a lot easier to get tutorials now than it used to be. Even a couple of years ago, it was a lot harder. Okay, so right now, I'm just cleaning up my edges so that they're not so cutout looking. I might have to tweak this brush a little bit. It's not perfect. Whoa, that was a disaster. I'm gonna cut in a little bit. Yeah, I tried Moho for sure. So Moho looks awesome. I'm really excited about playing with it. So I think if you're curious about it, you should definitely try it out. I would love to hear what your experience with it is. I own it. Like I own a copy of it. It's on my computer down here somewhere. Well, it was. I might have had to move it. But yeah, Moho it looks really great. It has some really cool features. I know a studio in France that just bought it and is starting to use it. The only thing I heard about Moho was that it got bought up by a bigger company that may not be supporting it as well as the original Moho people used to. So I kind of put on pause using it for anything major because I'm just waiting to see if they continue to support their update schedule and stuff like that, and that make sure that things are still okay in the company that originally made it. But it's a great program, and there's some amazing features, at least from what I was able to see. Rigging question. Yes, you can. Oh, you can't submit the link. Is it like a flat shaded character? Um, Yeah, so flat shaded characters, it's a lot of tricks. If you look, go find out. There's a really great plugin called Joysticks and Sliders, which a lot of people use, and that can help you do those kind of 3D turnable rigs. Also, as long as if your layers are flat colors, it's a lot easier to trick the rotation. So I remember the After Effects rigs for Angry Birds. They're really cool, but you can use a lot of it's just tricks, like eyes floating on top of a circle, and maybe they move the gradient back and forth a little bit. But in order to do those kind of rigs, you do have to put quite a bit of time into understanding how After Effects works and knowing the tricks. Like it's a lot of trickery. It's not really designed for it in any way, which means it's mostly trickery. But there's some good tutorials. If you look up the joysticks and sliders stuff, you're going to find some really decent tutorials that at least get you started on how to do character rotation and heads and things like that. So I'll just write this down right here. It's a great plugin for After Effects. I've just started using it. I mean, I did character stuff before, but rotating characters in After Effects is a bit of a nightmare. It's a giant job. Okay, so I've got that structure. So I'm just trying to build up these boulder rocky areas that are behind the character here. So this one too. I should probably... Oh, great. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that that Moho is back on board because it is really good. I highly recommend it. The only reason I don't use Moho fully is obviously I know After Effects really like a lot better, so it's easier for me, of course. I do often learn new programs, and I have to be careful which ones I start investing all my energy into. And the other thing is I'm not familiar with Moho's scripting language or if they have scripting, and I use a lot of script on my rigs because I come from more of a 3D background, and so I tend to build my rigs with a lot of controls and extra effects, which I think Moho takes care of in natively in some cases. Also, Fernando, if just let me know if that's helpful. If that's not, if you want more resources um, about turning characters around, like it's also good to know what kind of project you have. But you have to. I can't stress enough that you really need to keep in consideration your design for your characters. They have like if you do a character like this guy, this character here is very heavily illustrated with a lot of shading. That is a very difficult character to rotate in After Effects, and I wouldn't recommend it. But if you use a nice flat toon shaded feeling, you can do a lot more with it. Oh, no problem, Tom. Thanks for coming by. And yeah, if you grab the brushes, just let me know if you have any questions or if there's any problems at all. Just let me know. Just reach out. We have there's some people that are just on that job, so we'll be pretty responsive. Why do I have an email for a skeleton? I don't know what. Oh, I think it's just a joke. It's just a joke. There's no skeleton. Well, I don't know. Maybe the skeleton will talk to you. I have no idea. Yeah, I think it's kind of just a joke. We have there's a skeleton. There's quite a few anatomical things, reference objects in the studio. Because I mean, I've used them for most projects and everything like that. And like we were talking about earlier, anatomy is a pretty big aspect of animation. Okay, I don't love this brush that I've made, but it's better than, it's working fine for getting rougher edges. Actually, and I haven't tried it really small yet. Small might be really good too. It's just good for rough edges. The main thing I want to watch for though is making it look too patterny. That's like the hardest thing in Photoshop brushes is not having things look super stamped, which it already has a bit of, but I'm going to clean that up when I add my mosses and stuff like that. But there's so many layers. Like getting these alpha layers is sort of, it's one of the big steps for me. It also helps me make sure that yes, that's right. That is the right address. Getting these alpha layers helps me nail down the structure for the painting process. Otherwise, it's hard to figure out for me. It's hard to know, well, where should I be painting? How am I going to treat all my layers? Because it's not 3D, right? So we're dealing with tons and tons and tons of layers to try to make something. And to fake a lot of depth. Now, in some aspects, this would be easier in 3D, right? There's definitely a specific look to doing stuff like this. So that's a desirable effect to me, as I like the sort of 2D parallax look. But also, if you're trying to get a lot of foliage and things like that, doing that in 3D is very, very difficult, at least in my experience. So it's a lot easier to paint a whole bunch of foliage and rough edges than it is to actually make rough edges happen in 3D. Rough edges and interesting silhouettes, I feel like, are one of the greatest weaknesses of 3D, and it's really never that easy or intuitive to get something to have a nice silhouette. Like as you can see, like we have a lot of, without using a special paint effect or anything like that, in a 3D program, to get nice grasses and nice silhouettes and shapes like this, I need a lot of geometry. So this, I can just do it and I get that stuff for pretty much next to nothing. But I am going to have a patch that is 3D in here, and I'll probably have some of these rocks and stuff I'll bring in with Element, and I will sculpt some of these layers down and mix them with little 2D layers to help flesh them out a little bit. All right, guys, I think I'm going to stop soon, or actually I'm going to stop right away here. I'm just going to turn on some of these layers again. So still lots and lots to do, but I think you get the general idea. So this is my typical workflow for getting something smashed together. It's going to look bad for a long time. I might even get rid of some layers. I tend to have, typically I start with too many layers and then I start pushing it back. So you can see where things are going. And I really, again, have to be careful not to get too busy. Because right now the painting's nice because it works pretty well. It's because it's not too busy. But if I start adding too much details and I get too many complex forms, which has a tendency, like you can see it's already starting to happen. We're starting to get a lot of busyness in here, which we can break down after. It's important to be aware of that and kind of address it. So one of the things I will do is after I've assembled the scene a bit, start pushing things down, and that will automatically start clearing away some of the busyness. But we want to make sure that we're not painting and doing a whole bunch of work, filling in a bunch of detail on a layer we're not going to use. But this gives me an opportunity to essentially re-sculpt the set in some ways after I'm already done. So it's sort of a nice, that's why I like working with shape layers and kind of building the general design this way. Okay, so I'm going to answer Nikhil. Moto is very easy to get into. I mean, you can learn it and make complex rigs with head turns, etc. within a few hours. If you're familiar with 3D programs, then Moho will be a piece of cake. I will definitely learn it. How is it for importing illustration and things like, and animating? Is it scriptable? I'm curious if it's scriptable. And Greg Krasansky, super great question. What's been your favorite software for UV mapping so far? I've been using 3D Coat, and I found it's actually quite amazing. I really like 3D Coat. I wasn't Swifty 604 introduced it to me, and I wasn't sure about it at first because I had tried it before, and it was such a different workflow for me. But after I played with it for a bit, I'm pretty much sold. It's a great program. And you can do so much more than just UV painting. You can do sculpting and voxel-based modeling and concept modeling, which is really great. So it's a really decent program. And it's got real-time 3D UV mapping, so you can cut things out. Maya's starting to do that too, which is great. So Maya's getting better, but I would say the one that I've found so far has been the most intuitive and useful with the least amount of struggle learning curve has been 3D Coat. Oh, why are you calling yourself stupid old Migmigson? I'm glad you asked a question. I'm glad you're here. That's great. It's great. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna definitely check into Moho. I think the next big project I do, I'm gonna try to use it. I'm always looking for different ways to branch out and do more work and get more done with less effort, for sure. Okay. I'm just gonna double check this painting really quick. I think I want to bring this hill up here. There's this rock thing I made. I'm not super into it. I might want to change the shape a little bit. Which one is it? This one. I want to keep things going up. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to take off. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions. And you guys have a great day and have a fun weekend. And we'll do this again on next Friday on YouTube. So, and if you guys have any other things, just let me know. Shoot me an email, or I'm not really good at getting back on my emails. The best one is to hit up info@edfilms.net. If you send it straight to me, I will try to get back to you, but sometimes I get a lot of emails, and if I'm really working intensely on a project, I will sometimes go days without looking at my email. It's the luxury I guess I have because there's so many people here. You know, there's other people at the studio helping me out now. So anyways, thank you for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. And thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hanging out. It really means a lot to me. So I'll see you guys. Thank you.